If you want to be upset and angry about something, you will find it. You will find it whether it's about politics, the culture wars, or how men and women interact. Always. Some people think that their anger, sadness, and resentment about these things define them, and I feel sorry for them. I've had times in my life when I let pain drive me. For example, I left the US because I never felt like I fit in there. I've always had an old soul and high standards for myself. When I wore cufflinks and a tie to meet a friend, they would make fun of me because I wasn't wearing a dirty shirt. It was the same with dating. I never really understood how people thought in the US, so I lost hope. But I never let the pain make me who I was, which is why I've never joined the Mgto movement, men going their own way. More importantly, I found a better answer after I left the US and had more choices. In this article, I'll show you how you can live and date overseas to make yourself a happier Mgto. If you haven't heard of Mgto before, it's a growing group of men who think the odds are against their sex. You can look at it from a lot of different angles. Most suicides, violent deaths, and homelessness happen to men. They have to pay half of their money when they get divorced, and they might not even get to see their children. So if society doesn't help them, these men go their own way. They don't get married or have any kind of relationship with a woman, and they don't let society pick on them. The idea is to shut out the pain, focus on their own interests, and spend as little time as possible with the bad things going on in the outside world. They think that society is gynocentric, which means that everything is done for women and that men are just things that can be used to get what they want. I agree with some of what they said. It's not right that men and women are often at odds with each other in different countries, but the word "in various countries" is the key word in the last sentence, which means that it's not true in many other places. If you have a broader view of the world, dating overseas can help you get over the Mgto reasons for being down. How Mgto can see things differently. The Mgto is said to have taken the red pill, which got its name from the scene in The Matrix where the main character has to choose between a blue pill that erases his memories of reality and a red pill that makes him aware of the truth for good. But here's the thing. Most countries outside of the West don't have movements like Mgto. The Shokuki Danshi, or herbivore men in Japan, may be a notable exception. To make a long story short, herbivore men are men who don't believe in the salaryman culture. In this culture, Japanese men are expected to give up their lives for a single company, where they will work until they die. This rejection also happens in social situations. Since they've lost status, they don't find it worth their time to look for love or even try. In 2010, single Japanese men were asked what they thought about the trend. 61% of men in their 20s and 70% of men in their 30s said they were herbivores. Other than that, these kinds of movements only happen in the West. If the red pill really told the undisputed truth, it would be much more popular. It seems to me that both cultural and economic forces just create a setting that makes this kind of behavior and the status quo easier. It's not a universal fact about how people are. The easiest way to solve this problem makes me think of a bad joke that doctors sometimes tell. Doctor, it hurts when I move my arm like this," says a patient with a cast on one arm as he lifts up his arm. "Then don't move it like that," says the doctor, who is getting angry. Mgto does point out some wrongs in cultural trends, but it gives the wrong solution to the problem. Instead of trying to make the best of a bad situation, why not just change it completely? Just use the other arm if the one you're using hurts. If dating and day-to-day life are bad where you are, move somewhere else. This is something that the Mgto philosophy doesn't get. When they look out their window, they think the whole world is like what they can see. But here's something interesting. Psychological research shows that the average person can have between 150 and 210 close relationships with other people at the same time. Dunbar's number is the name for this event. This is because our brains developed in groups of about that many people. Those 150 to 210 people were almost the whole world for 100,000 years, until we started living in villages and then cities. We're still wired to draw conclusions about what society is like based on who we hang out with, though. In the bigger picture of society, this isn't even statistically important. Even if everyone in your social network has the same trait, it doesn't mean much when we're talking about the actions of millions or billions of people. Birds of the same kind tend to stick together. The world is a lot bigger than you think it is in your head. So if a political candidate wins, you might hear people say, "I don't even know anyone who voted for them." If you take this framework beyond a single country and look at the world as a whole, there are an infinite number of ways to set up those 150 to 210 people. You are a mix of the people you spend the most time with. Don't hang out with people who define themselves by their pain and problems. Instead, look for people who define themselves by their goals, dreams, and how they deal with problems. Set limits on what you're willing to put up with. When the line is crossed, do something about your anger. Use your energy to go out and see what else is out there. Maybe, yes, it is hard to find a date in the United States. But it's not so bad in Asia or Eastern Europe, where men and women don't fight with each other. As it should be, they both add to and balance each other out. The Mgtow philosophy and groups like angry libertarians who rant about how the government is unfair and wastes money may both have good points. Then what? You are but a single person. Even if you give your life to make a change, it's unlikely that you'll be able to change the way these trends are driven by the inertia of civilization. Instead of being angry and living in a society you don't agree with, why not go where people treat you the best? I was unhappy with my life almost 15 years ago, and that made me take a step that changed my life. At first, all I wanted to do was meet people with whom I had a real connection. But as time went on, I started to see that there were a lot of good things about living abroad besides just dating.